want to talk about the altar tools?
Yes, the altar tools.
Yes, they're giving me a message they want to be talked about. So this is one of the first tools I'll talk about is called the athame. And a lot of people have myths about this as well because it is a knife or a dagger, people would call it. But as you can see,
it doesn't look very sharp.
Yeah, it's dull.
Well, what? Are these both called the same thing?
Yes, athames.
I just wasn't sure. This one looks like it's a glass or crystal.
It is. It is. It was a gift to me. This is my personal tool. And what this is used for is storing and directing energy. It is never, ever used to cut anything. It's only used for ritual purpose. It's basically an extension of you.
Okay.
So it's an extension of your finger, and it's used to what we call cast a circle, which is basically creating our own sacred space.
Okay.
And that's what this is used for. And this is probably the most sacred tool that any Wiccan can have. It's most personal because it's an extension of yourself, and it contains your energy.
Okay.
This is the Book of Shadows that my coven uses.
What is the Book of Shadows?
Basically, it contains all of our rituals that we've done up to this point.
Okay.
And they're written out, and I have a very dedicated coven member who does this for me, because she has really nice writing, as you can see.
Wow!
It's very,
that looks
very
like a computer
small.
font. My goodness!
But I can't show you.
Oh, I can't.
No, it's a Book of Shadows.
Oh. Darn.
You know, we're a little, because we had so much persecution, we're a little sensitive about sharing everything. And
I wouldn't know what to do with it, honestly.
That's good. But
I only have this TV show to make me look smart and educated.
well, this contains our rituals, basically. So this is our record in terms of what we've done and the different rituals that we've done for the holidays and Sabbats and things like that. So
Okay,
that's
so
a very
like a spell
important
book.
coven tool.
Like
a personal Book of Shadows is a spell book, too.
Okay.
Yeah, this contains different spells that we work as a coven together.
Okay.
And a spell is basically a ritualized prayer. It's not a hex or anything like that.
Right.
It's just a ritualized prayer. Instead of praying, you know, for instance, we've done healing spells
Okay.
for people that we know who have been ill, or even animals that have been ill. And what you're doing is basically just getting that person or animal or whoever in mind, using some of their energy and directing positive healing light to them. And incense becomes a part of that, different oils that you use. Everything is coordinated for a specific goal.
And,
well, you know,
all
those
wonderful.
Those are all folk names of herbs that also...
Are they really?
Yeah. Yeah. So that's actually...
So you could still go
Devil's
into a store...
Claw and all that stuff.
You could still go into a store and buy Eye of Newt by the pound or something.
Now they sell it by its real name.
What is the...
I don't know what Eye of Newt is, but I know
But
that
they
I
really
think
are...
there's Devil's Claw, it might have been clover or something like that, or, you know, foxglove, and they have all
that's
different...
interesting.
Oh yeah, cat's eyes and all that stuff. That was all pagan folk names because a lot of the herbs they thought maybe looked like that. So yeah, that's a part of the other myth stuff. When people thought they were putting all these animals or remnants of animals in cauldrons, it was herbs. It was only herbs.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, it is
Speaking
good.
of the cauldron, you've got a very small one here. I'm used to
Yeah.
the big plastic one with boil and bubble.
Yeah,
and
no, we don't have any of
all that
those.
fun stuff.
It's cast iron. Do we need to bring that up?
Yeah, I can bring it up.
Yeah. It's cast iron, and it's three-legged, which is what usually most Wiccans prefer. The three symbolizing the three aspects of the goddess, maid, mother, and crone. Three is a very sacred number to us, as well as it is in Christianity. It's
Father, Son, and the Holy Ghost.
Right, and yeah, so another borrowed thing.
Do you think? Well, I'm wondering. Do you think it needed to be, because the goddess we talk about is female, primarily female, as in the primary figure here. Christianity and every other, it is male.
Sure.
And is there a sense of that it was derived and made that way because...
To repress women?
Yes.
Yes. Absolutely. There's a lot of misogyny that's involved with, you know, Christianity and its views on women in the early days, not necessarily now,
Right.
but in the early days where, I mean, there were quotes of saints saying how, you know, women were the dunghills of mankind and, you know, they were basically the ruin of men. And I think a lot of that came from sexual repression, which in the Middle Ages, Christianity actually forbid married couples to have sex. I think it was 30 days before Christmas, 30 days before Easter, 3 days before communion, on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Sundays. So there was a grand total of 2 months out of the entire year that a married couple could have sexual intercourse, and of course they were to derive no pleasure from it. It was only for procreation.
And it's horrible. Absolutely horrible.
Which is why a lot of people revolted.
Yeah, hell
from the
no.
Christian church.
Excuse me, but I've got quite a bit more days here.
What's important to note about Wicca is that sexuality is not repressed. And that's why a lot of people are drawn to Wicca. I'm not saying it's a free-for-all. Certainly people have their own moral codes.
No. Okay. It's cable, I can say that.
Okay. But
no, but it does play a very important part. I mean,
and yes, because the goddess, we're talking about the goddess of fertility,
right.
And they were always very open about mating rituals and things like that for animals, and just to show that, you know, we need to continue as a human species on this planet. And that's why, you know, sexuality was always healthy and embraced in Wicca, rather than something that you have to repress or look, you know, ashamed about. So that's a big draw for a lot of people with Wicca. You know, letting go of the guilt. You are a sinner and all that stuff.
I can just see those flyers you hand out at the colleges. You know, hey, ooh, I can go there. But
I don't want to have people get the wrong idea about it.
But no, it is. I mean, I can definitely see, and I'm sure as is. It's definitely a plus, I guess, for some. You know, sign me up. But the but as you said earlier, it's more than that. There is a lot of learning to understand. I think there's a lot of what the spells are, what they're made to do, what you use them for.
Sure.
The right ways to use them. The wrong. I mean, just the basic sense of, or the basic principle. Like I remember having this conversation with my mother. Said it's the only thing that really seems to make sense. You know, I need to be someone. If somebody's trying to get me to either participate in a religion or whatnot, as our previous caller said, if a person finds comfort in it, that's fine. I'm not going to discourage or put down anyone else.
Right.
For me, it needs to make sense, and to be able to work with what we're given when we get here, and to be able to know that this is what we need to respect, like we respect everyone else, each other, or we would hope we would respect each other, that we would respect the stuff that we've been blessed with to help us get through this mortal coil, you know? And it made more sense to me, like the reincarnation aspect, you know? It just didn't seem to make, the others did not seem to make sense. This seems to make sense.
Yeah, well, that's what I thought. And that's, you know, I sort of had that beam of light come down, the epiphany, when I realized that that's, you know, this was for me. And ever since, I mean, this has enriched my life incredibly. I am much more self-aware, you know. I feel like the fog has lifted, you know, and I am much more in tune with not only myself, but with nature and with my other, you know, fellow humans that I coexist with in this world, rather than being someone who isn't aware or isn't happy with their path and then just stays there because, you know, because it's a thing to do, because what would people think of me if I changed or whatever. And so you do have to be sort of brave to embrace an alternative path, whatever it is.
Right.
You know, you have to be prepared for whatever people are going to say to you. And I've had it all over, you know, 12 years.
Oh, I can imagine. I was actually expecting a lot more of that tonight, and I'm
well,
actually,
we're glad we didn't get
I'm
that.
actually very pleased that our calls have been very low key and actually very informative, as well as more curious than shame on you. And
absolutely, and that's what it's all about, is, you know, being open to it. We don't want to convert anybody. You know, that's
and we're
not
trying
what we're about.
We're not trying to recruit anyone.
No,
either.
we're not. But it's just, you know.
I mean, in fact, you work with a coven that's actually full, so she is in no need for any other members. Okay, your membership is not welcome at this time.